Hi, welcome to In the Rough with Angie. I am here with my new friend, Jackie Pflug, today. Is that how you say your last name, Jackie?
That is correct.
That's correct. Okay,
Hi.
good. And Jackie, I met through Soul Speak Press, which is a publishing company that helps women to get their stories out, women that have survived something. And so we got connected that way. And Jackie is a motivational speaker. She's an author. And I believe you have two books out now. Is that right, Jackie?
Yes, yes, and a third actually coming in December.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yes.
exciting. And then Jackie is also an overcomer of a violent crime and situation, which we'll talk about. The heart of this podcast and the Rough with Angie is that we've all overcome something in life, whether it's big or small, and we all still are a work in progress. Like we're all still in the rough, like being shaped and polished and worked on. So we can look back at the areas that we have overcome and know that whatever our current challenges are right now, we can look at what we already have endured, I guess, or traveled through. And we can look at that as tools to help us overcome our current challenge. So, if we can start, Jackie, just to get to know you a little bit better, can you share with us a favorite childhood memory that you have?
Yes, my favorite childhood memory is I remember myself, I think I was 10 or 11, and I was on my bicycle in my neighborhood going down the street and waving to people and laughing and stopping and talking to people. I remember that so vividly, and it's a precious memory of mine.
Oh, that's sweet. I love that. It's kind of like an adventure, right? Like
Right.
you're just going to explore on your bicycle.
Right, right. And then I loved my dad. I didn't see him much because he worked evenings or he worked daytime and he would come home in the evening, usually about 10. But when I did see him, especially on the weekends and in the summer, I enjoyed our jaunts to the hardware store and hanging out and listening to music on the radio and talking about old cars. That was a special time for me too.
That's really cool. Are you a fixer? Like, can you fix things if something goes wrong around the house? Can you fix it?
Oh gosh, absolutely not.
No,
I wish, I wish.
me too. Well, that's I know. That's really cool. I love that. I love that you have a great relationship with your dad. That's really sweet. And then also we will get into the area of your life that you survived, that you went through, what happened, and kind of your process, how you got through it. And I know you've probably told this story thousands of times. Mm, So, whatever feels comfortable for you today to share about that incident that happened in 1985, what that was, and then how you got through it.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I was 30 years old when that happened. It was the hijacking of EgyptAir 648, and I had flown to Athens for the weekend. It was about Thanksgiving weekend. It was November the 23rd and the 24th. The 23rd, I got on the plane, and the 24th is when the ending for me happened. The 23rd, I got on the plane to go back to Cairo, and I was looking forward to going back for a Thanksgiving meal with friends. I was teaching at the Cairo American College at the time, and I'm from Houston, and my dream for I don't know, forever was to teach and work overseas. And I was a teacher in Baytown, Texas, right outside of Houston, and also a school psychologist too at the schools in the Goose Creek School District. But there was always this dream to go overseas. And finally in 2000, excuse me, in 1984, I went to Norway to teach at the Stavanger American School. So my dream was a lot starting to be alive. And the following year, I went to Cairo, Egypt, to teach at the Cairo School. And I was married at the time to Scott Pflug, and he was coaching the volleyball team, and I went for this tournament that they had in Athens, Greece. So I was there for a few days, and then I had to come back home. So on 1985, November the 23rd, I entered that aircraft, and about 15 minutes into the flight, hijackers stood up, calling themselves the Egypt Revolution. And if we did what we were told, we would not get hurt. And I actually believe that. There was a lot of chaos, a lot of people on board, and babies and children and business people and myself. I was a traveler heading back to my home at that time in Cairo. And they started to, while we were up in there, they started to take passports from people, beginning with the people in the front and working their way towards the back. And when it was my turn, I thought maybe that I would be able to pretend I'm Hispanic, because I know that they were targeting Israeli and American passengers, but they had my passport, so I wasn't able to do that. When it was my turn to give up my passport, I stood up, and that's when I didn't realize, but there was an armed security guard, an armed sky marshal on board, and he pulls out a gun at the front of the aircraft, and I start immediately realize that the bullets had punctured the aircraft. So there's a gun battle in the air, and I am now in the back, and in the front of the plane and so there was a gun battle, and the bullets punctured the aircraft, and we drop in the sky. And I actually thought we were going to die just by that, because we start to take a nosedive up in the air, and then that's when the oxygen masks come tumbling down. And I didn't really pay attention to flight attendants when they told me what to do. But when the oxygen mask came down, I put it on my face, but I couldn't get any air from it. And then someone helped me, and you're supposed to yank the cord to start the flow of oxygen. And finally, that happened for me, and I was able to breathe. And we ended up landing in Valletta, Malta, which is an island in the Mediterranean. And our pilot wanted to land us somewhere. The hijackers wanted to take us to Libya, but the pilot said that we don't have enough fuel to go to Libya. So we had to land the plane somewhere. And our pilot had radioed different airports in the vicinity where we were for us to land, to refuel. And a lot of the different airports said, no, do not land here. And so we were headed to Malta, which is that small island in the Mediterranean. And when we were heading over there and we were about to land, Malta officials said, do not land here. Do not land here. We do not want you. Do not land here. And as we were coming down to land, Maltese officials turned off all the runway lights. And there was a airplane that was about to take off. And that pilot turned his aircraft to shine his lights onto the runway. So our pilot could have some kind of visual of where it was that we were going to land on the tarmac. And we landed really rough, but we landed. And that's when the hijackers start making the demands to fuel the engine so they could take us to Libya. And the Maltese officials refused to fuel the engines. They just refused and said, we're not going to do this. And the hijackers said, well, we're going to start shooting people one by one, first with the Israelis and then with the Americans, if our demands are not met. Now, as a passenger and a hostage on this aircraft, we did not get any information from the pilot or anyone any of the flight attendants. I'm sure they were clueless also, but we did not get any information, so we didn't know what was going to happen until it actually happened in front of us. And that was really, really difficult. And what they started to do eventually, after 6, 7 hours went by we are now have gone over the time for the 23rd. We are now into the 24th of November, into the wee hours of November 24th. And what we found out they were doing was that every 15 minutes, if their demands were not met, to get fuel onto this aircraft so they could take us to Libya, they were going to start shooting people one by one, first with the Israelis and then with the Americans. And there were 2 Israeli women on board, and there happened to be 3 Americans on this Egypt airliner. And they took the 2 Israeli women one by one, and that was a sad time. Everybody started to lose hope, and I was pretty sure that I wasn't going to live through this. And I was 30 years old, and I actually thought I had a lot of time to live. I was only 30, and I was planning on living until I was 100. And I actually still do. But I was taken by surprise. And I thought about my life when after the two Israeli women were brought to the front, you could tell that everything had shifted and the plane was full of fear. And they came for me and two of the other Americans. And I didn't know who they were because I was not traveling with them. And they brought us to the front of the aircraft because, again, they knew who we were because of our passports. And Patrick, I met them. Patrick was in front of me, standing up on the aisle, and I was behind Patrick, and Scarlett Rogenkamp was behind me. And they tied our hands behind our backs and sat us in the first row. It was the bulkhead row. And if you're looking at the cockpit, it was that row on the right-hand side. And they immediately put Patrick on the aisle seat. Well, because I was behind Patrick, I had a choice. I'm next in line to decide where I'm going to sit. So my choices were to sit in the middle or to sit on the window seat. Because my hands were tied behind my back and because Patrick stands, I thought he was like 6'4", his legs were butt up against the seat thing. And I thought what I would do is because my hands were tied behind my back, is just to go around his legs and then throw my body into the middle seat. That was my plan. And as I was about to do that, I got this feeling, this idea, this message to take the window seat. And I argued with it in my head. Now, it's not like somebody said, take the window. It was a thought, a feeling. It was that inner voice that we have that that we can tap into to guide us along. And I actually never really paid attention to it, or I might have heard it over the years in my 30 years, but it was pretty unfamiliar to me. So when I heard this message to take the window seat, I thought, I'm not going to take the window seat. So I sort of argued with it in my head. And this happened so fast because I had I had maybe had seconds to decide because they were pushing me and to make a decision to get on in on that row, they meaning the hijackers. And the hijackers right at the beginning had masks on their faces. But I could tell through his eyes which one he was. And as I decided to scoot over and take the window seat, and then Scarlett then took the middle seat. They came after Patrick, and then 15 minutes later they came after Scarlett. And then I felt like I had 15 minutes left. And so I thought about my life, and I was thinking about my life before that too, but I really started to think about my life, and I was very proud of some of the things that I had done. I got myself overseas to teach. That was a dream of mine, and I did it. But then there was other things that I thought about that I wasn't so proud of, like I gossiped or didn't always tell the truth. I worried about what others thought of me, and I thought about those things, and I worried about the little things in life. And what I also did is I sat my family in front of me one by one and said goodbye and told them what I loved about them. And then I waited. And instead of 15 minutes going by, an hour went by, and then 2 hours went by, and then 3 hours went by. And there was a little more hope that came into the plane. And I thought, oh, I'm going to make it. Oh my gosh. And I turned around and I turned around and to the seat behind me. And there was a man there that I had befriended at the beginning of the play of the he was an Egyptian man, and I had asked him about his family. This is before the flight even took off from Athens, and he showed me pictures of the family, and I turned around to him. So I knew him a little bit, and I turned around to him, and he said, "You're going to make it." And I said, "Well, if I don't, please go to the American School of Cairo and tell my husband that I love him." And that's when, shortly after that, the plane opened the door to the plane, the hijackers, and they came for me. And they brought me to the front of the aircraft. First, I thought I would go with this idea that I had on the plane where if it was my turn to go, that I would push the I don't know how I would do it, but I would push the hijacker down and then throw my body down the staircase. But as I stood there, I felt the gun to my head, and I also felt I had this idea. I heard this inner voice say, "It will be okay." And I felt the gun. He pulled the trigger, and I felt this heavy feeling in my head. I felt like my eyes were rolling in the back of my head. But really, what was happening was I was floating in the air. But really, I was being tossed down the staircase. And I landed on the runway with my left hand underneath over my head and my right hand under my chest. And then I realized eventually, my gosh, I'm alive. I'm alive. I'm shot in the head. I'm alive. And then I started to worry, what am I like now? What's going to happen to me now? Because you don't get shot in the head and come out the same way as you went in. So I started to think about that. And then I just started to play dead, holding my breath and letting it out slowly because I didn't want the hijackers to think I was alive. And so I was on the runway for 5 hours, in and out of consciousness and in and out of sleep. And at one point, uh, well, I kept getting that message, that inner voice kicking in, "Be still. You're going to be okay, but you just need to be still." So I listened and I trusted. And at one point, it started to rain. And now this was in November, in Malta. It was cool. It was cold. And I thought, well, if you want me to be still and you want me to live through this, I need to have the rain to stop. So I said a prayer to the rain to stop, and within a few seconds, the rain stopped, and I knew I was being watched over, being taken care of. And eventually, I heard a noise. Now I was on this tarmac for 5 hours. I didn't know that at the time because time meant nothing to me, because I was in and out of consciousness and out of sleep. But later I was told I was there for over 5 hours. And then I heard a vehicle come near me. And I thought, oh my gosh, what do the hijackers want now? I thought they had found out that I was alive. I thought these were the hijackers. But really, these were not the hijackers. These were the medics. And the hijackers had allowed the medics to come take away the bodies on the runway in exchange for food. And so instead of the hijackers, these were the good people, but I didn't know it. And then I felt someone say, let's do this one right. And then I felt my body being dragged and then lifted up on a metal bed. And I felt like I was inside a vehicle now. And it turned out that it was a van, because I felt like it had to be a van, because the only way that me and this metal bed were going to fit in it was if it was a van. And I had my face down on this metal bed, and I noticed that there was water and there were ridges on this metal bed, and there was water from the rain that night and morning, and my breath was creating bubbles when I was breathing. So I thought, oh my gosh, you can't do that. So I held my breath and let it out slowly. And while we were in this van, we started to move. We started to go. And this man on my right side doesn't look like looking at the bullet wound in my head. So he flips me over. And when he did that, I gasped for air. And he starts screaming and yelling, "She's alive, she's alive." And I thought, "Oh my gosh, they know I'm alive." So I opened my eyes and said, "You got the good guys or the bad guys?" And he said, "We're the medics, and you're gonna be okay." And we were on our way to the morgue, but we went to the hospital instead, and that's when I was being operated on. And the final minutes of that hijacking ended when the Egyptian commandos stormed the plane, and a lot of people lost their lives from that as well. And now I'm in the hands of the surgeon.
Wow. Thank you for sharing all that. I cannot even imagine being in that situation. The part that sticks out to me a lot is the reoccurring points on being the message that you heard to take the window seat, and then also, um, the message that you heard that it was going to be okay. And to me, I'm a Christian, so I know the Holy Spirit. To me, it sounds like the Holy Spirit. It sounds like God um, directing you And I think that's precious, just giving you strength in a horrific situation. And like you had said, you don't know if you had heard that voice before in your life. Maybe you had, but it was in this traumatic situation that I think it became more clear to you. And you were able to respond to it. And you knew that the message was to protect you and to comfort you and to help you. Um,
Yes.
what are your views on the Holy Spirit and God and that type of situation?
I've always called that inner voice my God voice. I've always called it that. And I think that it was probably always there for me as it is for everyone else, but I was just too busy to really pay attention and listen. And and on the plane, there was no restaurant to go to have dinner. There was no distractions, no laundry to do. There was no we didn't have cell phones or computers back then, but there was no calling someone to see if they wanted to go um, out for a walk. There was no distractions. There was nothing. And I was in the moment. And that's when I think that when we get quiet and we listen or get quiet and take the time to either pray or meditate or that voice can reach us. And like I said, there is nothing to do because
Yeah.
I was in the moment. I was paying attention and getting messages. So, because of that experience with the rain and choosing which seat, I started to listen to that more often or all the time, actually, and make
Mm-hmm.
sure I spend time to be able to hear that. But yeah, I call that my God
Yeah.
voice.
Yeah.
And
And
people
that
call it
sounds
different
like
things.
him to me.
Yeah, people call it different things, and the main thing is that you call upon it to guide you. And I think, well, I know that through my life, since we just had the 40th anniversary of that hijacking, I have listened to that voice and called on that voice and asked for help, and it guided me to. I had this idea when I left Malta, so I'll continue the story.
Okay.
I was in Malta for 2 weeks to recuperate, and I didn't know the whole damage for being shot, but I started to learn and I lost my peripheral vision. So, in both eyes, I lost my peripheral vision up, left, and bottom. I see you, but I just like don't see your whole face. So, always focus on people's right eye, which is the left eye to me, or their mouth, so that I can visualize the words that are coming out. And I don't see anything above that eye to the left of it or to the bottom of it. But I can get a whole picture of your face if I piece the pieces together. I have epilepsy as a result. I'm on medicine to be able to hold my seizures back. And I couldn't tell how to tell time anymore. I mean, I knew it was 2 o'clock and I knew it was 2:10, but I didn't know what it meant. And someone said, well, don't forget, there's 2 o'clocks. So I had to learn what do people do at 2 o'clock when it's light outside? And what do people do at 2 o'clock when it's dark outside? I had to learn that. What people at 2 o'clock, as I said, probably go run errands or get ready for dinner that night. 2 o'clock in the morning, people are sleeping. If it's 2 o'clock in the morning and it's dark outside. So I had to learn that. And I had to learn how to count money. I knew it was a quarter, but what does it mean? So I had to relearn how to count
Yeah.
money. And I didn't know any of this stuff until I was in a situation where I had to count money. My short-term memory was really, 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 really weak. So weak. I Somebody said something to me, I didn't even know that couldn't remember what they said, and I got lost a lot. So as time went on, I would say in the first 10 years, my brain started to come down to its normal size. I had a plate put in my right side. And there's a lot of issues even today. My vision's still the same, but my adaptation to it is really, really good. And then when I was leaving Malta after 2 weeks, uh, somehow the military got involved, and I was taken to Landstuhl, Germany, to recuperate in the army hospital there. which was such a gift. And that's when I met several people. But when I was heading over to Landstuhl, Germany, I was in a wheelchair and I was being transported out from the hospital into this small plane. It was a Red Cross plane. And I said to Scott, "What's Malta like?" Because I had never been to a country where I didn't get to see the country. So if I went to a country to visit, I was going to see it. But I'm in Malta, but I couldn't see it because I was busy getting operated on and, you know, getting shot in the head and all. But so I said, "Well, what's Malta like?" And he said, "It's beautiful and the people are lovely, wonderful." And I said to him, "I'm going to come back one day. I'm going to come back." And as I said it, I thought, well, why would I come back? Why would I come back from the place that this most tragic event in my life happened? But I didn't give it much thought. And then 10 years went by, 20 years went by. And Scott and I did not make it. But close to the 20th anniversary, as 2005, coming up to 2005, I started to get this message from God that it was time. And I thought, it's time to go back. Oh yeah, that's right. I was going to go back. And it just like hammered me. Don't forget, you're going to go
Wow.
back. You're going to go back. It just kept at it. And so I started to
Was
think
there
about,
fear?
okay,
Were you feeling fear?
well, yeah,
Were you
there's all that.
feeling
Oh, yes, I'm going back. Well, first of all, why am I going back? I have no idea. What's the reason for going back? And second of all, ugh, it's a little like, do I really want to do that? But I kept getting the push. And, by that time I was listening to my inner voice pretty good. I was listening to that God voice pretty good, and it had not done me wrong. I thought, okay, I'm going to go back. Well, at this time now, I'm remarried to someone and have a little boy. So I have a little boy at home. So I said to my husband at the time, I'll find someone to go with me. You stay here with my son, our son, and um, I'll find someone to go. So I decided I was going to have someone go, and in case something happened, someone was there to raise our son. That's what I was thinking.
wow.
Yeah, that was hard to listen to that because I knew it was right. I knew it was right to go back, but I don't know why. I didn't know why I was going back. What do I do when I go back? What do I do? I found somebody to go with me. Well, I started saving money for two people to go because that's the message that I was getting. Take someone with you. And so I saved money, and then some things started to happen. Events started to take place that seemed to come out of nowhere. And I got an email from a Pierre Kaliha out of Malta. And I hadn't communicated with anyone from Malta before, but this email came out. He said that he was a hostage negotiator for the Malta police, and that he had heard that I was a speaker and that he wanted to know if I had any videos of me talking about being a hostage. And I said to him, I emailed him back and said, well, I do, but I'm coming to Malta. I'm coming to Malta in January. And he said, what? He says, why? I said, I don't know. I'm being led to go. And I said, can you help me get into some places? And he said, yeah. So I said, I wanted to go to the police station, the newspaper, I wanted to go to the hospital, and I wanted to go to the airport. And he said, I can get you into all those places.
Wow.
So we needed him. I needed him to do that. And I didn't know that. I thought I was just going to show up. And so there was my contact. And we went to all those places. But before I was going, it was a couple of nights before we were leaving on January 24th of 2000. Well, now it's 2006 after the anniversary of the 20th year. Um, I'm in the shower and I keep asking myself, why am I going back to Malta? Why am I going back to Malta? And I'm taking a shower, I'm washing my hair. I thought, why am I going back to Malta? I can't tell you how many times I was asking that over those weeks. And finally I got an answer. You're going back to Malta to say thank you. And I didn't get that message. I got thank you. I got thank you. And sometimes those messages are just quick. So it's this thank you. And I thought, thank you, thank you. What does that mean? I'm going back to Malta to say thank you to all those people that were there that day that saved my life.
Wow.
And so then I became clear about why I was going, and so I couldn't wait to get out of the shower. So I dried myself off, put my clothes on, and I couldn't wait to get out because then I could go and find anything I could find, pictures of anything that I could take with me and show the people of Malta what a good life I have because
Yeah.
they saved my life.
Wow.
And so that day came and, oh, it was a great, actually 10 days. It was 10 days that we were there, finding
Wow.
as many people as I could. I found uh, the neurosurgeon that operated on me, and I found out some really funny things that the nurses said and yeah, it was a great trip.
How cool is that? Like you're supposed to go at first. It's like this uncomfortable, like there's some fear attached, like kind of like
Oh,
I
yeah.
want nothing to do with that place. And then you get, God leading you like it's a good thing. It's where I'm leading you is good. And that thank you and to thank everybody and for them to see you, I'm sure was a huge
Uh-huh.
blessing. And that's so cool. I'm so glad that
Yeah.
and then that kind of wrapped it back up for you where the place where you went through something so traumatic could be a place that you didn't allow fear to keep you out of to go back to appreciate the help that was there in that trauma. And I think that's huge. That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, it was such a beautiful trip. And I mentioned early on that I had wrote 2 books. The first book I wrote was called Miles to Go Before I Sleep, a survivor's story of life after a terrorist hijacking. And that book is just about the hijacking and my lessons learned. And it's about 200 pages and it talks about things just that we talked about today and even more and lessons
Mhm.
learned. And then the second book, excuse me, the second book that I wrote that came out in June of this year is called Wake Up. It's Time to Say Yes to Creating a Life Worth Loving. And the reason why I mentioned this book is because on the first chapter, right out of the chute, I talk about my trip to Malta and
Yeah.
how I went back to say thank you and the people that I
Wow.
found.
Wow.
That book was not supposed to have certain things in it. It was a book about all these stories I've lived through, and fun stories and hard stories and challenging stories and life affirming stories. And then that story got in there because it had been done. And it was so great to begin that book with that story.
I love that. And I
Mhm.
have a question. Have you kept in contact with any of the survivors on that flight? Have you ever met up with them, talked with them, ever had any kind of contact after the situation?
Well, everybody's from different countries but
Yeah.
Patrick Baker, who's the other American, he lived. He wasn't shot in the head. The hijackers, I thought he was shot in the head, but when I'm telling the stories, if I'm on the plane, but they went to shoot him, and the bullet just grazed his head. It didn't even. They put a Band-Aid on it when he was when he went to the Malta hospital. So he was released after that day, but he lives today. He doesn't know what it's like to be shot in the head, and he doesn't have all that head injury, but it was nice because he was a hostage with me, and I
Mhm.
was able to talk to him about that part of it.
Mhm.
Scarlett Rogenkamp, the other American, did not make it. But, to answer your question, there was a man on board, Tony Lyons, that was from the UK, and he reached out to me, and we talk now and then.
That's nice. I like that. Do you share like the process of the emotions that you're going through, the process of how to deal with that whole trauma? Do you talk about that or do you talk about, "Hey, I have a son. I go speak here. I do this." What are those type of conversations like?
But when I talked to him,
Mhm.
it's just, "Hi, how you doing?" At the beginning, there was talk about the hijacking, but now it's more, we've all moved on and we have our lives to live. Yeah, so it's more of like that. But after the hijacking, it was hard. It was very, very difficult after a trauma. But if you don't work through the trauma, it can eat you alive. And I did everything I could to heal from that. I let no rock uncovered. And what I mean by that is that if someone said, you should go to this doctor, this doctor may help you with your vision, I got the number and called the doctor. Somebody said, oh, you should do this, you should do that. I took it like it was a message, and then I need to follow through.
Mhm.
So little by little, things started to happen, and I was able to learn how to read again. So I plummeted to a kindergarten reading level, and I had to learn how to read again. And it's little by little, I started to get better, and my vision started to never got better, but my adaptation to it is really good. But it was really difficult to heal through that because seeing people killed right in front of me. I went to a therapist, and that therapist was wonderful. And Brenda Schaefer's her name. And I went to her twice, 3 times a week. And then it turned out to be months, about a year later, maybe 2 times a week. And several years later, maybe 1 time a week.
Okay, so you faced every aspect of the recovery process that you knew how to as you were being led to. Is that correct?
Yeah, like I said, I didn't leave any rock uncovered. So if it helped me get better, I went after it, or at least I called and found out if it was a good fit for me. And then
Okay.
doing this little by little, I started to get better. Like I said, I went to a therapist for many times during the week, and then it changed over to weekly, and then monthly, and then yearly. And so there was a ton of work that got involved to me where I am today. A lot of work, a lot of angels that came into my path to help me get where I wanted to go. So I looked at anyone that said something to me about something, I looked at them as a messenger that I was going to find out. And sometimes things were a good fit and sometimes they were not. But
Right.
I just did everything. And then one day I'm talking to somebody and I start laughing. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm laughing. And then all of a
Oh,
sudden I found myself laughing and feeling good. And some of the hard work was paying off.
I
And then
love
that
that.
launched a 25-year career as a motivational speaker, international speaker. And I felt like that was kind of what I was being led to, is to talk about this and lessons that I learned about this, which I mentioned early on in this interview. And after after about 25 years, I decided that it was time to stop speaking. I was getting a message. The message that I got was, "You've done your part. You can stop this now." And I felt that it was time for me to let go. And so I decided to take on to do the last speech. It was in Las Vegas to an automotive industry group. My gosh, there was like 3,000 people there. And my friend Debbie came from Texas to see me speak for the last time. And that was it, and then I haven't spoken about the hijacking since then, and that was 2011. And then after that, my son was in middle school, and I stayed home and hung out with him more, and my dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and he lives in Houston, and I live in Minneapolis, so I would make a commitment to go see him once a month and stay there for 5 days and hang out with him before he forgot who I was. So I did that, and I was a mom and a wife and a daughter, and uh, along the way, in those years after 2011, I got lost again. I got lost, and I didn't know that I got lost. I started to live my life on cruise control, and that's on autopilot. And I started to say yes to things that weren't good for me. Um, I found out that I was hanging around people that were critical of me or didn't want the best for me, and I got lost. And I wrote about this in Wake Up, the new book, Wake Up. It's time to say yes to creating a life worth loving. And I wrote the stories were supposed to just be stories that I experienced, but I was getting a message that this transformation that I was going through was needed to be in the book, so I put it in the book. And I started to find a way. little by little, making different choices to get my joy back, to get my laughter back, to get that feeling that I'm no longer on cruise control. I'm making choices that are best for me. And little by little, within 2 years, I got that joy back again. Some things that I did. I went to a retreat center. Not that everybody has to go to that, but I went to a retreat center and got some ideas of how to get off of cruise control and start living the life that I want. And for your readers or your listeners, then in the morning when you wake up in the morning, sit on the edge of your bed, and before you check your phone, before you go on your computer, before you do anything, I mean, you can go to the bathroom, but come back and sit on the edge of the bed and say to yourself, 3 times, say this. Today, I believe that something wonderful is going to happen to me. Today, I believe that something wonderful is going to happen to me. Today, I believe that something wonderful is going to happen to me. And then get up, go about your day. And then what I do at the end of the day, I think about the things that were wonderful that happened to me. And also for those that are listening that are trying to move to a different way of thinking, and maybe you've got lost too along the way. I started to watch what I said yes to, and watch what I said no to. And I also started to do 3 things a day that grounded me, and I always did them every day. And it can be anything that grounds you. It can be, drinking coffee mindfully. It can be, for me, it was I listened to a rose protection meditation from Janet Ray Orth, and then I lay on this mat, a spook. It's called a spook mat. I lay on that before I go to bed, 30 minutes on bare back. And so you can choose different things, and it keeps me grounded daily. And then little by little, angels started to appear in my life to help me get where I wanted to go.
I love that. And that's encouraging to me personally because I tend to go through periods of time where I feel like I'm on autopilot. Like, if I can just get through this day, if I have these events coming up that maybe I'm not looking forward to, if I can just get those done, then I'll feel peace, then I'll be happy, right? But it's not. It's our life is a
It's not.
journey and an adventure, and we should appreciate each day. So I love that you do that. And with me too, just bringing up the voice of God again, I've noticed I'm still learning like how to hear his voice, right? And being confirmed that it's him, but I trust in Jesus and I trust in the process. But what I have noticed is not all of my inklings are from him. Some of them are like maybe something negative that's urging me to do something negative, right? Like you said, you got involved in maybe some of the wrong relationships, right? So maybe there's a
Yeah.
pull towards that. Well, I'm not going to listen to that voice. Like, that's not a good desire, right? That's not good for me. But God's voice is going to lead us to the things that are going to grow us, even the scary things, even when you didn't want to go back and then you got peace that this is a good thing that you're going back. This is not a scary thing.
Mhm.
Like, you're protected. And so I think that's really cool and really beautiful. You had mentioned in another interview, and I always find this part really impressive for people that have been through traumatic situations because I haven't been through anything like what you've been through, but a lot of them will bring up the aspect of forgiveness and how they worked through forgiveness, whether it was the people connected to the situation, the people doing the situation. What you had mentioned forgiveness, but I didn't get to hear like your process in that. Are you able to explain a little bit more what that process of forgiveness was? Who were you forgiving? How did it happen?
Yeah, so that process took a long time for me. It wasn't, a day. It was more like I would say 10 years process.
Mhm.
I mean, it could have been earlier, but for me, forgiveness is not just saying the words, it's about feeling it
Okay.
and sort of letting yourself off the hook in a way to the event. But it's for the longest time, that hijacker who actually made it, one of the hijackers made it, was serving time in prison in Malta. And I actually would call the prison and make sure he was not a happy man.
Mhm.
And so I was connected to him for so long, and then eventually stopped doing that. And I just started as time went on when I was in therapy and getting tools of how to grieve through this and let go. I I don't know. It was just like one day I didn't feel like I was in it anymore. I was more in forgiveness than I was in hatred and
Mhm.
bitterness. But if you don't let that go, that bitterness can take over for sure. You
Mhm.
can become bitter. But you mentioned just a few minutes ago about this idea that you have that if you can get this done, you'll be happy. So it's really
Right.
important not to get hung up in the
Mhm.
idea of destination happiness,
Mm.
where if I lose 20 pounds, I'll be happy. If I people will help me around the house more, I'll be happy. It's important not to get hung up and put in that destination happiness. And the way you can do that is to do things daily, 1 or 2 things daily that put a spring in your step to counter that destination happiness and whatever that might be, to do something every day that puts a spring in your step. Whether
Mhm.
it's and also I go outside, and outside in this world, it's like a playground of
Yeah,
getting to know people and connecting with people,
that's true.
and saying hello, and being connected.
Would you say you're more of an extrovert or an introvert?
Yeah. I think I don't know, but I think I might be an introvert with good extrovert skills.
Yeah, you seem like an extrovert to me. 'Cause I can be an extrovert, like, if I need to be or if I'm around my family or friends, but most of the time, I wanna be an introvert. So, with that tendency is, like and I love that you have, like, the spirit of adventure in you because that probably breaks you out of that introvert too, because you
Yes.
have that and you love adventure in your life, and so I'm trying to get to that place too of just, like, enjoying life more and the adventure of it and saying yes to more things instead of just dreading things, if that makes sense.
Yes, that's a good point you've got there too. Doing is saying yes more to things because here's the thing about saying yes. If it feels good, if you say yeah, saying yes may get you to the thing that you've been wanting to do for a long something happened for a long time. For example, if somebody invites you to an art museum, say yes because it might be when you get to the museum, that might be the path you've been looking for a long time, but you don't know it because you're not there yet.
That's
So
true.
that's the thing with, going to Malta, and I said yes to going to Malta, and by doing that, it was unbelievable what it did for me. It healed me. They loved on me. Where I thought I was going there to just meet these people, I also to say thank you to them, I also felt love from them. So
Mhm,
that's why it's important to say yes to things that are good for you or things that come your way because it could be the one
mhm.
thing that's you don't know that you've been asking for all this time. Yeah.
That's very true. I love that.
And the other thing
And
is live
then,
in the moment. Be in the moment. Be in the moment. Don't think about the future. Don't think about the past. Gosh, I wish I hadn't said that to somebody yesterday. Stay in the moment. As you drink your coffee, feel, taste the coffee, taste,
Yeah,
how it feels in your mouth and the joy that you get from drinking the coffee. Be in the moment. Anything that I do, when I go outside, I lock my door and I look around at my surroundings and I'm in the moment. And ever so often, I'll get out of that moment and start worrying about something, and then I quickly kinda get myself back. And when you're in the moment, it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing. Good
yes.
things can happen when you're in the moment.
I'm glad you said that because I'm a big daydreamer, like I always have been. So my mind wants to like go to the next thing, right? And not be in my current situation. So I like that you said observe what's going on today, knowing it's going to be a good day and living in it, right? Interacting with the people that I love the most and actually listening to them, like listen to my daughter, be involved in what's going on in her world and not stressed out in my mind about what I think needs to get done or what I need to get past. So I love
Yeah.
that. Do you, Jackie, as we close, well, first of all, where can people find you? And then we'll get to the last question.
Yeah, so they can, if they're into social media, I'm on Facebook and Instagram as Jackie Pflug author, and Pflug is P as in Paul, F as in Frank, Lug. So Facebook is Jackie Pflug author, Instagram is Jackie Pflug dot author, and the book Wake Up, Wake Up. It's time to say yes to creating a life worth loving can be found on Amazon. And it's also on Amazon for the audiobook. If audio readers that love to download audiobooks, I'm speaking. I'm the person that's narrating
Oh,
my
that's
book.
cool.
I know, it was so fun. And then on Kindle, you
Wow.
can download on Kindle, and then you could also do the paperback version. And then I had mentioned earlier, you had asked me about the books, and I said there's another one coming. It is called it's the journal that goes with Wake Up. So in Wake Up, the book,
Awesome.
I talk about journal about three-quarters of the way through. So after it came out, May 28th or June 1 this year of 2025, I decided to write a journal to go with it. So I've been at it since June of 2025 this year, and it should be ready for on Amazon by Christmas, hopefully. Yeah, so it's
That's
really good. It's
exciting.
really good. The
I
journal's
love
really
that.
good. Yeah, it's very
I've
thought
just
provoking.
started journaling again. So, I mean, there's so much to that. It lets so much stuff out and helps you realize so many things. So, I love that.
Yeah, yeah, and it goes with the book. Wake Up. Yeah.
So then, Jackie, I guess my last question is if somebody has just gone through something traumatic in their lives, and are there a few steps that they could take that can help them to recover, or do they need a little time to just be? What is some advice for somebody who has just recently been through something traumatic?
Oh, yeah, I would suggest that they find people that they can talk to, somebody they can trust. And no good happens when you leave these thoughts in your head. You need to get them out of
Mhm.
your head and either write about it or talk to a counselor or perhaps a pastor at church or a close friend that can give you some good help. It's important to get it out of the head and
Mhm.
onto someone else or onto paper. And then I would suggest that maybe reach out to a therapist or a counselor and trust that it will be okay. And listen to that voice and ask for help. Get quiet as often as you can, and believe that you need to do as much as you can to keep the hope. I think keep the hope, keep the faith.
I love that. Thank you so much, Jackie, and you're welcome back anytime. I'd love to have you again if you want to come on for another conversation.
Thank you, Angie.
So
You are
thank you so
lovely.
much.
You are lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.